Marathon blues definitely hit hard. You get like a day or two of like everyone congratulating you. There's all those heightened emotions as well, to then like sort of kind of feeling not nothing, but close to kind of just like, okay, don't know what to do now. Hadn't ran in London before, so I came back and was like, wait, I need to really think about where I am, where I'm going, like my route. I've not really had anything that's truly fulfilled me and made me happy and kind of something that I can look at and be like, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, and this is, the whole purpose of why I'm here. My name's Aminah, to start. I am a freelance content creator for the most part. So I work with brands on like a UGC basis, as well as on my platform on Instagram primarily, to create social media content essentially for different brands. Started off doing like food and beverage, and like sort of just fell into fitness, which is just aligned to like my lifestyle a bit more. So yeah, that's essentially what I do. I'm also a community leader, so I have my own women's run community in London, which is like my little pride of joy. Um, so yeah, I'm just putting together like a community of girls to essentially create a safe space for women to run in London, and it's kind of evolving into a bit more like wellness and other events and other sort of movement as well now. But yeah, that's essentially what I do.
If
And I
you
run a bit.
Yeah, and you run a bit, just a little bit. We'll get into that. If you go onto your Instagram, which we'll put in the bio right now, the link's in there if people don't follow, and you scroll back, there seems to be like a point where everything kind of changed from
Yes.
the content you were making to kind of the content you now make.
Yeah.
And there's obviously there's a trend throughout everything, but it has shifted. Was there a reason that happened? Like, take me back to that moment where you decided to post more about kind of health and fitness and your running journey.
Yeah. So I kind of, like a lot of people, fell into this content creation world. It never was my intention. I actually worked most of my career in like healthcare, women's healthcare, and I fell into this during COVID, where, like a lot of people, I was just recording me making like banana bread and dalgona coffee and all that stuff that everyone was doing. I was documenting it because there was not much else to do. So I kind of fell into like, I created a Instagram account and just got a huge following from there and just made it into what it is now. But yeah, so it was primarily food, restaurants. I've always been a big foodie, but making it something that I was monetizing and essentially became my job, I kind of lost the love, not love for food, I still love food, but having it as my job made it less enjoyable. And where a huge part of me loves fitness and always has, I felt like I wasn't really aligning it to who I truly was. So there came a point where it all got a bit too much, and I sort of had to think about trying to change the direction without losing interest, because obviously I have this huge following of people that were there for my food recommendations in London, and going from like these insane cheese pulls and chocolate and insane food to then saying, oh, let's run or like work out, which is like the opposite side of the spectrum. I was kind of like, I don't know how to do this. So that's kind of where my name came from. So I kind of wanted to keep that love for food, because that genuinely is still always there. I'm always going to be a foodie, but I do love to balance it with fitness. And it was sort of a bit of just being authentic to who I am and showing what really my life is like. So that's where the shift came. So I just had to bite the bullet and be like, okay, and I'm now going to sort of, it came with a name change. It came with like obviously a new direction of where my content is going. But now I sort of did that, I think, beginning of this year, and then now it's just all running because that's just where my life is going. So yeah, that's how we got there.
Did it feel like a pressure moment when you did do that? Was it scary because you were changing direction?
It was very scary. It took a lot of like months of me contemplating whether to do it or not, whether it was the right decision. I had a lot of people telling me it wasn't, and there's always this thing about content creation and finding a niche and sticking to it. And I've kind of opposed that and been like, no, well, actually, I would rather focus on being authentic to myself and my lifestyle, and hopefully the people that will follow that will be genuine and or sort of followers that I want anyway. And so far so good. So I've clearly made the right decision, and I'm really happy, which is, you know, more important than anything. So yeah, good decision. But it was definitely scary doing it initially.
Authenticity wins as well. Like, we've had people on the podcast over the years, and authenticity is one of those kind of threads that always comes up in content creation, I think. And the people that are the most authentic seem to be the people that not only gain a following but keep an engaged following, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not always about sort of the numbers that you see. It's more so the people that stay and actually engage with your content and buy the things that you suggest. And yeah, behind that comes with authenticity. I definitely agree. Yeah.
Do you ever worry, because you mentioned then the food side of things, like how the account kind of started, and then you kind of lost the love for food a little bit. Do you ever worry that that's going to happen with running?
I do sometimes think that. I sometimes think that not that I'd lose the love of running, but maybe lose the love for documenting it. But I think I've got a good balance of not feeling the need to document every single run. So I have runs that, you know, I just go out and run. I don't feel like I need to document everything, which I think helps. Whereas when I was doing mostly food content creation, I felt the need to document everything I ate whenever I went out. And so even those sort of like social moments with my friends became kind of work. So that's why I kind of lost interest in it. But yeah, I make it a point to not record every single run and every single workout, which I think really helps. But so far so good.
I guess as well, it's kind of the reason that a lot of us fell into running, right? To have that mental headspace, that clarity that you get from running, and you don't want to lose that completely because you're documenting it. But it sounds like you've kind of got a really good balance, and you can still, like, if you've had a hard day and things aren't going well, you can still go out and go for a run and not feel like I should be filming this or I should be doing this type thing.
Yeah, and also I think the motivation is different to do so. So like with my food content, I was, you know, giving someone a recommendation at most, but with my running content, I feel like there's a motivation. It's helping other people and it's motivating other people to move. So I naturally also lean towards wanting to record more and show that more. So the aspect of helping people and trying to motivate others to run definitely helps.
There's a huge part of that as well, you know, in your community. So for people that don't know, what's the community called, and why did you kind of make the decision to not just document your own journey, but start this kind of community journey as well? Because being a leader is very different to just posting yourself.
Yeah. So we're called Girls Who Run. So we're a London-based, women's-only, essentially run community. I'm trying to expand into other forms of movement and like making it a general wellness community. But we essentially started as a run club. The reason I started was I actually started my running journey not long ago at all, towards the end of last summer in Dubai with my sister. Sort of fell in love with running and essentially made it my entire personality. And in Dubai, you don't really have to worry about safety. It's really not a concept that you can just go out as a woman, feel completely safe, running, doing whatever. When I came back to London after that trip, I was out there for a month. So then when I came back, obviously wanted to continue running, hadn't ran in London before. So I came back and was like, okay, well, I just sort of went out to run in my local common, and I was like, wait, I need to really think about where I am, where I'm going, like my route, the timings of when I'm running, and all these things that I just never had to think about before. And I was like, well, there must be so many other women that are the same. So essentially started this community as just a safe space for women to run together. But it's now sort of grown into this community where people can make friends, connect over like movement and things like that. but essentially it was a safe space. It is still hopefully a safe space. Yeah.
What was that like coming back from Dubai? Like you said, and I was going to get onto that. Like, it's strange, isn't it? Because we're talking now like almost like you've been running your whole life, and yes, you've like you said, loved fitness and movement, but that's kind of what running does. It makes you feel kind of at home straight away, I think, and that's obviously what's happened to you. But it has actually been quite a short period of time. Like, this
Very
journey
sure.
has only really started, and we'll get into the things that you've done from then to now, because that's even more wild, I think. But
Yeah.
does it feel now ingrained in you, running? Does it feel like it has been there for ages?
Yeah, I think it's a huge part of who I am now, which sounds crazy. It's honestly, I was thinking back recently, and I've only really been running. Well, I've only been running for 9 months at most. I was like towards, I'd say like peak summer last year where I started, which is not the best place to start. Peak summer in Dubai is terrible. Um, yeah, so it's definitely a huge part, and that's what I mean by it's. I've made it my entire personality. Is that I've genuinely just revolved everything around running, but it's mainly because, as with most people, it's just how it makes me feel, and it just, yeah, the sense of achievement and the endorphins and everything, and the fact that you can just go out and without complications just run. Um, yeah, it is. I'd say it's a huge part of who I am now.
I know, like, a lot of people start projects, and I'm kind of talking about the community as a project. I know it's a lot more than that, and I know like it's a lot more than that for a lot of people. But initially, when you start something, it's new. You think, right, I'll give it a go and see what happens. And I imagine that's probably what was the case with the community. And at the start, you don't know, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? But it's very much working. And there's this huge community of people now that run with you, as you say, in a safe space, but also are making friends outside of that time.
Yeah.
As a leader, as the person that is there, and as the creator of this thing, these relationships wouldn't have happened without you. So what's kind of like your feeling towards that?
Um, just pure fulfillment, I guess. I feel like certainly at present, I kind of, without meaning to, kind of found a purpose within it. Where like, my whole life I've kind of felt like I've not really had anything that's truly fulfilled me and made me happy, and kind of something that I can look at and be like, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, and this is, the whole purpose of why I'm here. And that has really given me that, which is honestly it's amazing to look back on. But I genuinely feel like this sort of like, it's just a passion of mine to help as many people as I can. And I realize seeing people form friendships and, motivating people, there's people that it's quite a beginner friendly community. I try and push for people that have never ran before, maybe not even walked like a distance of 5K, to just step out and make that first step. And just knowing that there's so many people that I've helped make that step and just have the confidence to go out and run, and the confidence to join a community, it's so fulfilling. So yeah, that trumps anything else. That's why I look at, and that's the reason why I sort of continue doing it. It never gets old. I did a run over the weekend, and I had sort of a terrible couple of days leading. I say terrible, just some down days leading up to that day. Sort of kind of post marathon blues / kind of just a multitude of things. But that 1 hour and a half that I had with my community just trumps all of those bad days. So yeah, definitely a sense of fulfillment and happiness, just helping other people.
Is there ever that pressure though to keep doing it, to keep doing bigger and better things, to keep moving the community forward?
A little bit. I'd say healthy pressure.
Okay.
Yeah, I always have people sort of asking about the next thing, because I've been talking about expanding into events. I've had done my first non-running event last month, or the month before that, sorry. So there's a push to do wellness events as well. And so there's a lot of people just asking me, when's the next event? And it's just, there's a lot of planning and work that goes behind one event. So there's a bit of pressure, but it's not something that is negative, I'd say. It's positive. It's just pushing me towards, creating more amazing events and things for people to attend. Yeah.
I think as well, when it's something that, and we've just heard you speak about how it fulfills you, when it is something that fulfills you like that, what's the, that phrase, do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I know it's quite cliche, but it is kind of like that, isn't it? It's like, if you're doing something that you really want to push forward and you have a passion to push forward, even those difficult conversations that you might have to have, or those late nights that you need to stay at work in, or those days where something that was planned has dropped out and you have to do something on the fly, like, they don't feel so difficult.
It makes it all worth it.
Yeah, it makes it worth it. And you're cool to do it because you want the girls to have the best experience they can.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Right, let's talk about running, because not that we haven't been talking about running, but in terms of your running, again, it's quite cool to see like your journey crossing with RunThrough in quite a lot of different ways. I know you ran Women's Run Series with the community. You also did your first half in Battersea, I think, in October, was it?
I did, yes.
Also running that race. But yeah,
it's
that like we've got this crossover, and that crossover will continue. And you've just kind of come out of London now as well. That's a lot, right? In 9 months to go from 0 to marathon in 9 months is mad. Was that a decision to do that? Like, did you think, I want to get to that point in this short space of time, or was it kind of just little things kept ticking on and you're like, oh wow, I'm entered for 26.2?
Yeah, so it definitely wasn't intentional, nor sensible, but
it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine, so it's okay. I signed up for my first half, like you said, back in October, the Battersea one. Didn't go very far for that one, but I just kind of wanted to look forward to something / experience something. And I know a half is not where you should start, really. Could have started with a 5-10K, but I don't know why at that time I just felt like it was just something that I wanted to achieve at that point. So I was like, unless I sign myself up for something like this, I'm never going to achieve those distances, and I'm never going to find myself get there, which a lot of people do. So that was my initial sort of entry into races and things like that. But then it just became like I had some opportunities presented to me through my platform, and the London Marathon, it was also an opportunity that was presented to me, and I had no intention to be running a full marathon at all. I always had in my mind that would be a goal of mine, but I was thinking maybe end of 2026, maybe even 2027. Like, I kind of wanted to do it sensibly and not just like rush into things, and still just enjoy running. But I just got presented this opportunity, which was 2.5 months before London took place. And so it was so crazy, but I just couldn't say no. I know how hard it is to get into the London Marathon. I know how epic the race is. I've heard so many people. I mean, I have so many friends that are runners that have run so many marathons across the world, and I hear all these stories about how amazing London is. And also the organization that approached me was Women in Sport. And I felt like, I mean, this is how I go through life. Like, everything happens for a reason, and I'm a huge believer in faith. Like, if I wasn't supposed to do this, this opportunity wouldn't have presented itself to me, which might lead me to some silly decisions in life. But this one I'm glad I took. So, it's not all too bad. But so this organization, Women in Sport, they work in, they're a charity and organization that work to help make things equal for women in sport and fitness, and trying to break down those barriers that we have that we face and have faced in the past. So it kind of, it couldn't think of anything that aligned more with what I love and do anyway. So I kind of got given that opportunity and was like, there's no way I can say no to this. It's so much more important than me getting either a PB or like anything. I just thought I can just complete the race with no intention to, get a certain time or anything, but just more so to raise awareness for this amazing organization. And it's so much bigger than anything else. So that's really why I fell into doing London. It was never an intention, no. But just something I couldn't say no to, really. And I'm so glad I didn't say no to it. Best day of my life.
I absolutely love like the beaming smile that just like came out then when we started talking about London was unbelievable. And I think, like you say, sometimes we're presented these opportunities in life, and that could be a job, that could be a trip, that could be an opportunity. And it almost feels like we know what probably the sensible thing to do is, but sometimes sensible isn't always the right thing. Like, and I love that from you saying, if that opportunity wasn't supposed to be there, then it probably wouldn't have been. So it's cool that you did say yes to it, because if you didn't, it's one of those things, isn't it, that you would have been thinking about for ages. You'd be like, oh, I should have done that. Why didn't I do that? I know it wasn't sensible, but why didn't I do it? So yeah, you must be so happy that you did it, and taught me through the day, taught me through what saying yes led to.
So I didn't have the best 2 months leading up to the marathon. Like everything was telling me that this was the wrong thing to sign up for, actually. So unfortunately, So I had some bad news with my mum being diagnosed with breast cancer. So I was quite heavily involved with her care. And then I had some health issues myself, which really stopped me from the majority of my intense training. So like intervals and stuff, I could still do some easy running, but most of my interval sessions I couldn't do, or was advised not to. Some health issues of my own, and just a lot going on within those 2 months, which is already such a short time to leave yourself for training for such a big endeavor. But didn't have a great lead up to it. So that sort of added on to my, the already existing nerves that anyone would have leading up to something like this, like their first marathon. So very nervous. Had multiple conversations with people to sort of confirm that I should be doing what I'm doing. I would be lying if I didn't say that I felt like dropping out a few times. Like, I'm only human. I definitely did have those moments when training got really hard. Specifically, I remember the longest run in my training block was, I think, a 34 kilometer, and that was probably the worst experience that I've had of running ever. And luckily, I have like this amazing support group of family and friends that either just insanely supportive, but also some people that are quite well experienced in running. So I had some people tell me that, or I had one person tell me that that 34 kilometer run is 10 times harder than the actual day is going to be. Just trust that the crowds will carry you through. And at that stage, having no experience, I was just thinking it's just a good friend telling me what I need to hear at the time, but that could not have been more of a true statement. That run was so much harder than the actual day, in that I honestly, the crowd really did carry me through the entire race, and I just had the best day. And to say that I ran 42 kilometers whilst having the best day is also wild to say, but I genuinely did. It was just, the crowds were sensational throughout. I thought there'd be some like quiet moments, looking at previous routes and doing my research on previous years. There are some like said times where it gets quite quiet, but I feel like this year, and maybe 2024 too, there was not a single area through that route where there was no quiet areas. It was constant. It was just constant crowd support and music, so much going on.
And also, it's crazy to say this, but I've never ran without music until the whole marathon, which is, I've never even ran my previous races without music. I've always had headphones in. I've not been able to run without music. And on marathon day, did not listen to any music. I had a whole playlist set out, did not listen to a single song. The only time I had my AirPods in was for like a 15-minute motivational podcast that I had saved. And that was like around like the 32, 34 kilometer mark when I was really feeling it, when my body was like, yeah, I'm done. My body's given up and it's all your mind that you have to like hone into. But apart from that 15 minutes, I did not need music. It just carried me through. But yeah, lots of nerves, so many dark, deep thoughts as well. I don't know if I hit the wall. I still don't know what that term really means, but I mean, I definitely had a moment where I felt like I couldn't go on. So if that's the wall, then I guess that is the wall at 32 kilometers.
I'd say that was probably the wall.
That's a wall. Yeah. But luckily it didn't last for long. So 32 to 35 kilometers, I'd say, would be where I was kind of really in the trenches. But then luckily after that, I saw quite a few people that I knew on the way, which really helped me carry through the last part of the race. But honestly, such a range of emotion. I'm not a big crier at all. I've probably cried like a handful of times in my entire life, and cried more than that in that one day. I cried seeing my family. I cried seeing a set of my friends. I cried at the end. Very emotional day, but all happy tears. Yeah, a lot. It's a lot to unpack.
Do you think it meant even more because of the build up, because of the things you went through, because of the things your mum went through, all that leading up to the race? Did it mean more because of that, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think part of that sense of achievement comes from overcoming those voices in my head saying that I can't do it, I shouldn't do it, or I should drop out, and sort of the strength that it takes to ignore that and still sort of persevere. I think definitely felt a sense of achievement from that for sure. Yeah, 100%.
How have you felt? We're recording this the 6th of May, so we're only like 10 days removed basically from the marathon, and you've kind of touched on it. You said at one point before the community run, you're feeling a bit down a couple of days before, and part of that probably is marathon blues. Like how has that been, dealing with that post race? Because it's something we don't really talk about, like as people that are first time marathoners. There's this massive culmination of this huge thing that you've been looking towards for so long, and then suddenly it's gone, and it's like, so like how has that been?
I definitely agree. There's a lot to do with sort of post marathon that people don't discuss a lot, that I certainly wasn't aware of. But yeah, marathon blues definitely hit hard. I feel like it's because you're leading up to the race, all you're talking about really is a marathon. Like all your conversations are revolving around it really, and so then afterwards you get like a day or two of like everyone congratulating you, and you're still talking about it, and it's still like the main topic of most of your conversations. But then there comes a point where you've spoken to everyone about your experience, and now you're just kind of like, what do I speak about now? Like, what do I do? And not having any at that time any races signed up to. Well, I had like one signed up to in October, but not in the immediate future. But just didn't really know sort of what to discuss and talk about now. Really did make my personality. But from going all those heightened emotions as well to then like sort of kind of feeling not nothing but close to kind of just like, okay, don't know what to do now, don't know how to feel. Do I sign up to something else? Do I like what's next for me? Is kind of a huge question that I have had in the past few days. But I'm kind of trying to remind myself to just soak in what I've done a bit more, and instead of focusing on the next big thing, which is good. So yeah,
I try and in those moments like take myself out of me and think what I would say to a friend, if that makes sense. It's just something that always helps
Yeah.
me if I'm ever feeling down after a race, or if I'm injured or whatever. Like when running
Yeah.
sometimes is such a big part of your life, when it's not there or there isn't something to look forward to, you're like, I feel like a little part of my identity has kind of gone here. Like,
Exactly.
what would
Yeah.
I say to this person if they were feeling like that? And I think
Mhm.
one thing I always come back to is that, like, just give yourself a moment to digest it, because if you
Yeah.
don't have that moment, then you can't kind of move forward. And I think the beauty of what you have as well is you have this incredible community and this thing that almost means more than the actual running itself. So you've always got something to pump a load of energy into,
Yeah,
stay
look
in
forward to.
space, even
Yeah.
if you're not running.
Yeah, no. I think it definitely helps me having this community 100%, I agree. Because even like organizing this run is sort of what I've kind of been focusing on. And then like the next sort of events, that's really what I've been focusing on in the last couple of days anyway. So it's helped for sure. But I definitely agree with that advice. It's good advice to take on. What I would say to someone else would kind of like get a grip. You've just run a marathon. Like,
Exactly. Yeah,
so
there's
good.
like
Yeah.
you get home and you're like, oh, what is the next thing? And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Your body's like, hang on,
Let's
just take
relax.
a sec. We're gonna be all
Well,
good.
can we speak about the body actually post
Yeah, we
marathon?
can.
Because that's
Please.
another thing that I feel like isn't spoken about a lot, or certainly not enough. Because I mean, I know your body needs time to recover, and it's different for different people, and the more you run, I guess it gets better. But generally, after something so crazy as running 42 kilometers, your legs are pretty much done for a minimum of 1 to 2 days. Yeah. So, I mean, I was expecting it somewhat, but to the extent to what I experienced, oh my God, like not being able to move for like, I'd say immediately after I was okay, but the day it got progressively worse, the day after, and then the second day after was when it was at its worst. And I was just like, oh my God, I literally cannot move. So yeah, I think that needs to be spoken about more. And like things like chafing and things like that. Like there's so much, like luckily my toes were okay, but there's so many people I know that whose toes who don't have any toenails. And you're just like these things, there's another side to running like races that people don't speak about enough. I mean, it's just standard social media. You see all like the highlights and the positives, and you don't really see much of the negative stuff. But I feel like it would be very helpful for people running their first marathon like I was.
Coming down the
Yeah.
stairs rather than going up the stairs. Coming down's always the worst. And it's so funny. It's like, it's almost like we just forget about all the stuff after the fact. Like everybody does it because you're like, I'll be all right. And even when you're at, let's say 32K, that part where you were really like in the trenches, as you said, you were probably telling yourself, I've only got 10K left to go. Well, yeah, you only had 10K left to go with the marathon, but you didn't have 10K left to go of like everything post as well, because you're going to have to deal with all of that. Do you know what I mean? You get 10K to get that finish, get to that finish line, get that medal, but then no one else can sit on the toilet for you because that is it as well. No one talks about that. You're like,
yeah, so true.
Literally emailing somebody this week, organising another interview actually, and he sent a message back to me saying, I'm fine. It was post London as well. He said, I'm fine, but I can't sit on the toilet. And I'm like, that is exactly the best way to describe post marathon.
Yeah, explain it. 100%. Yeah, it's just all the basic things that we do day to day that you kind of like appreciate your legs for. You're like, oh my God, like just sitting down without pain is just, big thing. But yeah, no, it's not talked about enough. But yeah, it was a struggle, but we got there in the end. Feeling good now. Feeling good. No injuries. That's the main thing.
Yeah, no, that is nice to come out with it like that. Do you know what? Like this whole conversation is obviously been focused around running, but there's been this theme that's run through the whole thing about kind of female empowerment and stuff that you do in the women's sporting space, whether it be running or, as you say, running for the charity that you ran for in London. Does that feel something that is incredibly important to you? And where has that kind of come from? Has it come from an experience, or has it just come from a place of, feeling that things need to be pushed forward?
Yeah, I'd say I've kind of somewhat always been in a similar space, because even prior to content creation, when I was working in healthcare, I was working in women's health. So a lot of my working life has been revolved around raising awareness of women's health conditions. So I guess this is just a different outlook. It's fitness. It kind of all ties into the same thing, really. So I've always had, I kind of fell into that job and sort of worked my way up in the company. But I think it definitely grew from there. And it's sort of where I certainly realized that this is something that I enjoy doing, and it's something I do love, raising awareness. So I was quite involved in like the social media side of, or not involved, but helped with ideas when it came to the social media side of my last job. So raising awareness of women's health issues, which aren't definitely not talked about enough. And that's kind of what brought me to realizing how little people know about women's health and how much therefore it needs to be spoken about more. So I guess that's where it did start from. But then also in this running and fitness space, I feel like being a woman of South Asian descent, I didn't see a great deal. I mean, I do see a lot now, but I mean, my running has been quite new, but my fitness journey has been, I've been into like weightlifting and things like that for several years. So certainly at the beginning of my fitness journey, I wouldn't see a great deal of representation there. So not just representation, but also sort of the acceptance of like, how do I word this? It's more so, I guess, my experience of my culture. Obviously, I don't want to speak for everyone, but of my culture is that fitness and achievements around fitness and running aren't really seen as achievements. My culture, or certainly my family, focus mostly on like academic and monetary achievements rather than fitness. So having sort of breaking those barriers within my circle as well as for other people is quite important to me as well. So that's another big reason why I do what I do. Several things, but yeah, primarily just raising awareness, and it's just not spoken about enough, and it needs to be. So yeah.
I think selfishly as well, doing this podcast and having the conversations I've had over the years with loads of different people, it's kind of opened my eyes to the fact that it is a huge problem, right? Because if you're not having the conversations and you're not in the space where the conversations are happening,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not seeing those conversations, I think sometimes it's just very easy just to kind of shrug your shoulders and be like, oh, there's no problem. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're not there, you're not hearing it, or you're not seeing anything about it.
I mean, we're all guilty of that.
Guilty of it.
Yeah,
Of course, but
definitely.
like we know how algorithms work. If something's not in your algorithm, you just ain't going to see it. And I think a lot of the way that's how life works as well. Like I would never have had conversations about endometriosis or surrogacy or, anything probably around female healthcare outside of my friendship group and my family. So I think it's so important that people like yourself are putting that message across, because with the following that you've got and with the people that follow you and, with all of their connections and relations, it just gives everybody more of a space to hopefully consume something that gives them that little bit of extra knowledge.
No, definitely. I think it's definitely a topic of conversation that still needs to be spoken about quite a lot. And yeah, if I can do anything to sort of help aid that, then I'd be more than happy to. Yeah, 100%.
I guess as well, it's quite cool for you that you've come out of that job where you were doing what you were doing, which is obviously quite rewarding, and you obviously enjoyed it, and you're kind of now in your, content creation era, but also how things are going to move forward with the rest of your life. You've kind of got that knowledge and that understanding to be able to do this, again, coming back to authenticity, in a very authentic manner, because it's something that you actually do understand and have worked in.
Yeah. I feel like like I said, everything happens for a reason. And I think, my experience in my job and then leading on to sort of falling into this like wellness community area is really like helped like pave a way of like where I want to go, where I see my life going. And it definitely has opened my eyes, especially in the last couple of years, of I definitely do want to be in this space where I am luckily enough at the moment, sort of build on that and be in the wellness female community area. So yeah, no, it's definitely sort of just, it makes sense, and it fulfills me, and it's something that is something I'm quite passionate about. So I'm lucky to sort of be in that space.
Yeah, I don't think you're lucky. I think you worked really hard to do it. So yeah, it's that's one of those things, isn't it? It's like, oh, I'm lucky to have done this, or I'm lucky to have done that. You're like, maybe in some respects, but not in others, because you don't get to a point by just luck. We did mention your family briefly then, and obviously we chatted about your mum as well, and kind of like maybe there being a slight different kind of understanding of achievement in some ways. What did they think post London? What was their kind of reaction to you completing that race?
So I think I was saying this to a few of my close friends, that I feel I see a huge shift in certainly my mum's perception of my achievements now that I ran the marathon. So up until this point, I mean, it to be fair, it's not been a long time for her to sort of process. Now you're running and doing this thing, so fair enough.
Forgetting it's been like 9 months.
It's just literally 9 months, so fine. It's absolutely fine. But you know, initially it was just sort of like a hobby thing, and my mum was like, "Oh, well, you're probably just doing this for now, and you know, enjoy it," and that is it. So there wasn't really any sort of, I mean, there was support, but just not really like acknowledging the achievement behind it. So for me to go from like not being able to run 5 kilometers without stopping several times and being out of breath to then running a half marathon, for me, or for most people, should be a great achievement. But my mum wouldn't essentially see it that way. She was just kind of like, "Oh, well, you've done this, well done. Let's go back to sort of your job and other stuff. This is just like something that you're doing on the side and something that you enjoy, whatever." But with the marathon, I've definitely seen a shift. I think she's kind of really understood how big of an achievement it is, how hard it is to get into something like the London Marathon. And I mean, I must be a different multitude of reasons, but somehow it's come to a point where she's, you know, kind of really been proud of me, and it's been a real big moment between us for me to see that from my mum. And yeah, it's been huge. So now definitely, I mean, I've got support from the rest of my family, and always have done. My brother and sister-in-law actually made it out and managed to be there supporting me on the day, and that meant the world to me. Like, it's, you know, when people think, what were your highlights of your run, and you know, a lot of it sort of blurs into one, but this one big part that I could never forget will always remain a core memory, is seeing them at it was actually at, like, I think mile 24 to 25, so right towards the end of the race, and saw them, like, bawled my eyes out, obviously, and it just meant, like, one hug just meant so much to me. So yeah, definitely had support from my everyone else, but just sort of seeing that shift in support from my mum was really nice. Yeah, it was lovely.
That feeling of pride from, like, close family and parents is such a weird one as well, because that's something that always gets me. It's like, if somebody that you're like, you've grown up with, whether it be a really close friend or a really close family member, says they're proud of you, you're like, whoa, okay. That's quite a lot, isn't it? It's a lot to digest.
Yeah, and we're quite speaking of my immediate family, we're quite avoidant, so we don't speak a great deal about feelings. Sounds terrible, but we actually just don't. And so for like, even my brother, he sent me a text message, and I think I posted this on social media. He sent me a text message whilst I was running. This was before I met him, and it said, "Oh my God, you are amazing." And he is someone that's quite blunt. I've not had a great deal of text messages from my brother, just period, let alone anything of that kind. So for me to see that, and it appeared on my Apple Watch at the time, like I just stopped and I had to take a picture of it because it was just such a big moment. Yeah, so just seeing the shift and like seeing those messages from my immediate family who would never normally express that sort of stuff was nice as well. So fulfilling, yeah.
You finished with this because look, a lot has happened in the last 9 months. What happens in the next, do you think?
Yeah, I've been asked this a lot. Like the biggest question that I've been asked is what's next, or would I do another one again? Like everyone, I've been like immediately after the marathon, I was like never again like ever signing up to something like this. But then a few days go by and I'm, you find me looking at my next big challenge. But I'm sort of trying to hold back and remind myself that I've just achieved something so big and I do not have to have something to look forward to in order to like, carry on. So I do have a race in October, which is a half marathon, but that was booked way in advance, way before I even was signed up to the marathon. But in terms of next thing, I mean, I definitely in the distant future want to do another marathon. My ultimate goal is a triathlon.
Okay.
So I don't have a date set. I don't have anything in mind. I just want to slowly work towards getting that fit in cycling and swimming. And primarily because I am a terrible swimmer. And I mean, it's a strange way to improve your swimming, just signing up for triathlon. But I feel like I have fear of open water swimming. So I want to conquer that fear, and I feel like if I can ultimately do a triathlon, then yeah, what a way of conquering your fears, I guess. But nothing signed up, nothing in mind, just eventually, and I'm thinking like 2-3 years time to do a triathlon would be my eventual goal.